Hi you guys, my name is Cherita. Welcome to my channel. Alright, so today, by the title, you guys are going to know that we are going to be discussing Trisha Paytas in her second video about all of this Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star drama. But like most of my other videos, we're going to be discussing some things that maybe some people didn't catch. I mean, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but we are going to be discussing it. So if you guys are interested in this video, go ahead and keep watching. Before I get started, make sure you click subscribe for new content whenever I post. And also do not forget to click the notification bell so that you are notified every single time that I post a video. So let's get started. All right, so I'm not going to be playing Trisha's video just because we're not going to do that. But I'm going to be point by point, we're going to be talking about what Trisha acknowledged in her video. So she starts off, this is going to be all over the place like most of my videos, but yes. So Trisha starts off by saying how Shane had told her that he is afraid of Jeffree and that he's going to start slowly distancing himself away from Jeffree. And, you know, this was after Trisha had told Shane and Ryland about what happened in Vegas. If you don't know what happened in Vegas, Jeffree and some friends took a vacation with Trisha to Vegas, and they talked about Trisha the entire time. Trisha left Vegas early and told Shane the whole situation. They cried together. They talked about it, whatever. Shane told Trisha, don't make a video, you know, I guess because he didn't want any drama with Jeffree, but whatever. Nonetheless, Trisha was told not to make a video, so she didn't. But now she's making a video because Hair by Jay inserted himself. It's a whole lot of, but you get it. Then Trisha starts going off about how, I don't understand how someone can still support Jeffree after all the things that he's said and done, and so many people have come forward and said that he's a terrible human being, and blah, blah, blah. Kind of like you, Trisha. Like, this is the issue that I have with Trisha. Trisha was complacent in Jeffree talking about people until Jeffree started talking about her. And then because he was nasty to everybody else, for whatever reason, she thought he could not be nasty to her. So now she's like, well, he was nasty to me, so he could be nasty to anybody. Yeah, that's what everybody's been saying. So for her to bring up that point is just, it's very hypocritical because she's saying the same thing that everybody has been saying for years. But I digress. Then she talks about how condescending Jeffree was when, you know, he was on Twitter and was like, you have my number, you know how to reach me, love you. And that's manipulative on Jeffree's part, because I guarantee you this is not the first falling out that they've had. I guarantee you this is not the first falling out that they've had. Because for him to say, all right, girl, just hit me up, call me, love you, that along with Jay saying, I bet you right now, if we were to call Trisha to hang out, I bet you she'd hang out with us. And that just pieces the story together that Jeffree and Jay have talked about Trisha. They've talked about Trisha together. Like, how do you guys not see this? Ooh, bless your hearts. So then Trisha goes on to talk about how she has blindly defended Shane. She has defended Shane for like no other. If I or anybody were to go up to Trisha and be like, hey, Trisha, did you hear about Shane? Did you hear about the dirty things that Shane did? Trisha would shut it down automatically. Nope, I don't believe you. That's not Shane. That's not Shane. Shane's not that type of person. She blindly defended him literally on everything. And she was loyal, way too loyal to a fault. And again, it's sad, but I don't feel sympathy because of the things that she's done, and we will get there. So Shane is telling Trisha that he's slowly distancing himself from Jeffree, right? He's like, yeah, you know, I'm afraid of Jeffree. I'm going to slowly distance myself away from Jeffree. But then in the same breath, he's on Ryland's podcast bragging and boasting about Jeffree Star, knowing the things that he said about Trisha, his supposedly best friend. So yes, Trisha feels some type of way. She told Shane, she cried to Shane. She shared her experience with Shane about Jeffree. Shane tells Trisha, oh, I'm going to slowly distance myself away from Jeffree. And then the next thing you know, Trisha's listening to Ryland's podcast and they're saying the most wonderful things about Jeffree. How do you think that made Trisha feel? What does that say about Shane's character? So in my last video, when I was saying I don't know what triggered Trisha because something triggered her for her to go off the way that she did, what she said was Shane had, so when the Jay thing came out, right? And Jay is talking all this mess about Trisha, and it came forward that Jeffree was part of the shit talking. Shane calls Trisha or texts Trisha and is like, hey, let's talk about it. We'll get some Postmates. We'll talk about it. We'll forget about it, because I just don't really believe that Jeffree said those things about you. Like, basically, Shane is saying, I'm not sure if I can believe that Jeffree actually said those things. So he believes Jeffree over Trisha. And like I said, Trisha has been nothing but loyal to Shane for over 12 years. Shane's known Jeffree or been friends with Jeffree for what, 3-4 years? Now, yeah, time doesn't mean anything, but Trisha has always been loyal. They've never had a falling out, at least that we know of, and we haven't known publicly. And Trisha is saying that she's been loyal to him for over 12 years. That's what she's saying. Shane also did say that that he had to support Jeffree, he had to stand by Jeffree because Jeffree was loyal to Shane. But Trisha's been loyal longer. Trisha has been more loyal and loyal longer. So what is it about Jeffree to where Shane feels like he needs to defend Jeffree but not Trisha? They're both problematic. Can't use that excuse. You cannot use that excuse. Trisha did admit that she blindly defends Shane. D'Angelo Wallace, if you guys don't know who he is, which if you're watching me, I assume you know who he is. D'Angelo Wallace did a podcast with Ethan Klein, who Ethan and Trisha, H3H3, like they do a podcast together. And I guess Ethan asked Trisha if she wanted to call in, but she said no because D'Angelo was going to be on the podcast. And she's heard that D'Angelo made a video talking crap about Shane, but Trisha didn't watch the video. But here's the thing. D'Angelo wasn't talking mess about Shane. D'Angelo was giving facts and proof about Shane. And so that's why it's so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's so scary to blindly support somebody, because at the end of the day, you don't know what you're supporting or who you're supporting. That's why it's so important to do your own research. We can get into politics, but we're not going to, but it's so important to do your own research and watch different sides, not just one side and the other. You have to watch a neutral side. You have to watch a non-biased side. You can't just watch one person who will strongly defend everything that Shane does, and then you also can't watch somebody who will just attack every single thing that he does. You have to meet in the middle. Maybe this is why Shane does what he does. I don't know. I mean, me, myself, like, I'm not a big fan of Shane, Trisha, or Jeffree, but I give a point of view that a lot of people don't really think about. At least I want to believe I do. So then Trisha further victimizes herself. Now, if you guys watched my last video, I don't believe Trisha is the victim in all of this. And I'm going to tell you why. She was talking about how she never talks about people's appearances. She doesn't talk about their skin or their weight or, anything that basically Jeffree and his crew were talking bad about Trisha. She says she doesn't talk about that. But here's the thing. She mocks communities as a whole. She has mocked the trans community. She has mocked the DID community. She has mocked the Black community. She's done blackface. She's used the N-word a plethora of times. She's pretended to have DID. These are full-on communities. She didn't care about their feelings. And I'm talking about every single community that I just talked about. She did not care about their feelings. No matter how many times people said, Trisha, this is not right. Trisha, that's not right. And I understand she's a troll, but she was actively hurting these communities. It was dangerous. It was dangerous to these communities for her to be spreading these lies. Marginalized communities already are not taken seriously. So for her to pretend to be something that she's not, and again, like people say, well, how do you know? How do you know she's not? Because if she was, she'd still be those things today. We know how Trisha operates. She'll pretend to be something for about a week, and then she's done with it. She doesn't apologize. She doesn't give heartfelt apologies. And again, what is the best form of apology is changed behavior. She has mocked communities time after time after time. I think just on TikTok the other day, she came out as non-binary. If that's who she is, all right, awesome. I'm not here to say what she does and does not identify as, but she's also identified as DID, or as having dissociative identity disorder. She's also identified as a Black man. She's also identified as a trans man. She's identified as so many different things, and I understand mental illness probably has a lot to do with it. But when you're 32, you have to get that under control. You have to get that under control, because she is actively harming communities. Actively. Not just one person. Her feelings were hurt. Now she feels the need to speak out because her feelings were hurt. She sat around with Jeffree Star talking about people. She sat around with Shane Dawson talking about people. That's why she's not a victim. So then she goes on and she's talking about how hard she goes for Shane and Ryland. Like I mentioned before, people can say one bad thing and she's just like, nope, that's not them. You're mistaken. You're wrong. Blah, 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 blah. And all she was asking for Shane and Ryland to do, the bare minimum. 1, unfollow Jay, because Jay was the one who was talking bad about her. And 2, take down the video, take down the podcast of you guys praising Jeffree Star, because he also had talked bad about her. That's all she asked. She didn't say end your friendship. She didn't say any of that. She asked for the bare minimum, something any friend would do. Then she was like, how many people have to come forward for us to believe how nasty he is? Now, Trish. Now, baby girl, I know you're not talking. The same thing could be said for you. How many communities have to be hurt for us to realize how nasty you are? When Jeffree was being nasty to all these other people and people were telling you and you didn't want to believe it, what does that make you? Same with Shane. What does that make you? So, like I said, Jeffree and company went on this trip, and Trisha fully believes in her heart that she was invited on this trip for them to make fun of her. That's literally the crappiest thing in the world. And she didn't deserve that. She did not deserve that. However, she should not be surprised. She should not be surprised that she was a victim of a person who all the time talks bad about people. She should not be surprised. She's hurt because Shane is believing Jeffree over Trisha. And if you think about it, all the signs are there of Jeffree talking about Trisha. Jeffree got on Twitter and said, I apologize to Trisha. What did you apologize for, Jeffree? What did you apologize for? Did you apologize because you were talking about her? Probably. But no, he'll try to spin it and say, well, I apologize because of the way that my friends talked about her. Okay? So why were they still your friends? If you were truly sorry, you would no longer be friends with them. If you sat there and listened to, let's say for shits and giggles that Jeffree did not talk about Trisha and he's apologizing because of the way that his friends acted. If the hairdresser, Hair by Jay, and the makeup person, whoever the makeup person was, truly they were the only ones talking about Trisha. He was friends with Trisha, like he claims to be. Love you, girl. He would have cut them out of their lives right then and there. He would have cut them out right then and there. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Hi, you guys. It's Future Editing Cherita. Okay, so right here, what I wanted to say was in a tweet, Jeffree tweeted how he holds his friends accountable. He always holds the people around him accountable. How come he didn't hold his friends accountable in this situation? How come he did not hold his friends accountable when they were talking about Trisha in Vegas? And another thing, I refuse to believe that Jay and Jeffree have completely cut ties. I just refuse to believe that that's what it took for them to end their friendship or whatever it is. Jeffree just ended his friendship with Jay because he got caught. But I think they're still friends. I truly do. But no, he remained friends with them until when? Until Jay accidentally outed Jeffree. Jay accidentally outed Jeffree, however you want to look at it. And then Jeffree, to save his own ass, oh, good morning to everybody except for the person who cuts my hair or who did my hair. So why now? Why are you making a spectacle of it now? I don't understand how you guys don't see right through this. It's blogging. What? Boggling. It is absolutely mind-blowing. Trisha believes that Shane used Jeffree and Jeffree used Shane. And honestly, that's probably the most honest and truthful thing that she has said. Because think about it. If Shane sticks up for Trisha, him and Jeffree can't be friends anymore. If Jeffree sticks up for Trisha, him and Shane can't be friends anymore. So they need each other. They need each other. And this goes back to Jeffree using Shane to do the docu series, because nobody liked Jeffree before that. And then Shane to the rescue. Then everybody was like, oh, Jeffree, his makeup sales went up. So then Shane was like, ooh, maybe we can do another one. Then I can profit off of this. So then Shane used Jeffree for makeup, for a collab. And now it's still the same thing. Ryland used Jeffree for his podcast. Jeffree came and talked about the Kanye BS that that was drama that a TikToker created. And I promise you, I would not be surprised if Jeffree planted a little seed in that Ava Louise girl's ear. Wouldn't doubt it. Would not doubt it. So again, Trisha's talking about how triggered she was because Shane told Trisha, excuse me. So Trisha goes on to talk about how Shane triggered her by saying, I thought you and Jeffree would, the reason why, Shane didn't publicly defend her is because Shane believed that Trisha and Jeffree could work things out, and Shane did not want to believe that the things Trisha said about Jeffree were true. Meaning, what Jeffree, the stuff that Jeffree said about Trisha, Shane didn't want to believe that Jeffree actually said those things. And the crazy thing is, well, at least for Trisha never questioned anything that Shane ever said, ever. And again, that's being loyal to a fault. She never questioned anything that Shane said. Now she's like second guessing herself on everything that has been told to her from other people. Trisha said for years, she's heard people say, oh, well, Shane talked about you. Shane's talked about you. But she just let it fly under the, Shane would never do that to me. Never question him about it. And now she's like, wow, he probably was talking about me. He probably was. Trisha goes on to say how Shane never publicly defended Trisha for anything. Any kind of drama that Trisha has been in, Shane has never publicly defended her because she's problematic. But in the same breath, Shane will defend Jeffree. Y'all, make it make sense. Like, can we please make it make sense? Like, pretty please. I'm literally begging. Shane will not come out and say, oh, Trisha is a good person, this, that, and the other. But we'll go on to promote Jeffree and, promote Jeffree on his podcast. Then Shane tries to be manipulative, and which is like, I really don't know how to handle all this, Trisha. Like, I'm in therapy for this. You're in therapy for what? For Jeffree talking about Trisha? Because that doesn't make any sense. That literally makes absolutely no sense. Trisha brings up a lot how she blindly defended Shane, and she did that because she thought he would always have her back. And that's the issue, is Trisha is trash, and as garbage as Trisha has been, Trisha, you cannot tell me that Trisha has not always been a friend to Shane. Trisha has always been a friend to Shane, but Shane has never been a friend to Trisha. And it is showing right here and right now. And then again, Trisha brings up how Shane told Trisha, well, like, yeah, like, I have to have Jeffrey's back because I have to stand with Jeffrey because he was with me during my cancellation. So was Trisha. That makes no sense. But you know what the difference is? Jeffrey has more money than Trisha does. And I 100% think that's what it boils down to. Jeffrey has more money than Trisha, and Shane chose money. That's what he chose. And then when it comes to Jeffrey choosing Shane or Trisha, of course Jeffrey's gonna leech onto Shane. Shane was the one that made him look good. Shane was the one that redeemed his entire career. Albeit Jeffrey ruined it, but Shane was the one. So of course Jeffrey's going to leech onto Shane. He's a bloodsucker. That's what he does. Until it no longer benefits him, Jeffrey holds on to people. Y'all, let's just take a trip back into memory lane. When Jeffrey first started, Kat Von D, no longer friends. Manny, no longer friends. Laura, Gabriel, Nikita, Nikki Tutorials, James Charles, no longer friends because it no longer benefited him. And if you don't see that is the issue, then there's honestly something wrong with you. If you do not see the problem, that's on you because it's all right there in black and white. You don't have to see receipts. You don't need, and people have given receipts, but oh, no. People just made that up. How long has Cherita been saying this for? Huh? Trisha did acknowledge Jay's apology, and she didn't accept it, nor did she not accept it. She just said she was surprised that he apologized, and people should think twice before working with him because of all the nasty things that he said, and he doxed her and her business, her phone number, her business. Jay doxed her, which number one is illegal, and two, just like morally not right. I don't care who it is. Trisha at that point in time was not putting anybody in danger, so there was no reason to dox any of her information. Then she went on to say that she was not going to accept Jeffrey's apology because why? He has not changed. He is still the same person. And what do I always say? Aren't you guys tired of me saying the same thing? The only form of apology is changed behavior. And he has not shown that he has changed his behavior. He's still going around telling people that Trisha is on drugs when she's not. And even if she was, that's not his place to say. That's her personal business. That's her personal life. I am so upset that I'm sticking up for her right now. I should not be saying these things. Then, now here comes the tea. This all came at the end of the video. This video was like 16 minutes long. And I know this video is way longer than that. But this video, Trisha's video, was like 16 minutes long. But this is where the tea kind of started to spill towards the end. There was a rumor going around that Gabby told Trisha's ex-boyfriend Jason that she had some form of an STD or an STI. And Gabby was telling people that Shane was the one who told Gabby that. And Trisha was like, what? Shane would never do that. Are you kidding me? Shane would never tell anybody that. Now Trisha wholeheartedly believes that Shane was the one who told Gabby that Trisha had that specific STD or STI. And Trisha bashed Gabby. Went off on Gabby because of this situation and other situations. But can you imagine? Can you imagine? And then, Gabby has told Peter Mon some things about Shane and Jeffrey. Y'all, these people ain't shit. But y'all allow these mediocre white people to just influence you. And I don't know why. Trisha makes it very clear that Shane and Ryland did not block Trisha. Trisha unfollowed them and then blocked them for her peace of mind, which I thought was very mature, I guess. She's just trying to, I guess, clear her headspace. I don't know. I don't know what Trisha's thinking, but she wanted to make it very clear that they didn't unfollow her, but they also didn't do what Trisha asked them to do, because they were asking Shane and Ryland, what can we do to make this better? And she's like, I already told you, unfollow Jay, take the podcast down. They didn't either. So she was like, well, I guess you guys really are not my friends. And that's actually very sad. As loyal as she has been to them, that's the least they could have done. The very least. Then Trisha drops another little bombshell where she says, you know, Shane's coming back with a new project, and because he's so talented, I know he's gonna make a comeback and he's gonna be successful. Now we don't know what this project is. Peter Mon has some thoughts, and I'll leave his video below, but yeah. It's pathetic. This is pathetic that these three people who we've known about, now it's like, you guys don't know, we don't know what to think. How about this? All three of them are trash. All three of them deserve each other. Now again, I can empathize with or for Trisha, because nobody deserves to be treated that way by what she considered a friend. Those are her friends. Her feelings are valid. Those are her friends. And I'm sure Shane, behind closed doors, probably made her feel that they were true and genuine friends. Same with Jeffrey. But I cannot feel bad for her, because she's put the same hurt and harm on other people, just like Shane and Jeffrey has. So, and Trisha kind of ends with, she knew that people can change, but Shane didn't change for the better, at least for a friend. She said that the Shane that she knew changed. And that hurt her. Her feelings are valid, but you have to look at who you are surrounded by. You cannot tell me that Jeffrey and Shane, you can't tell me that they all didn't sit around and just talk about people. And like I said, Jeffrey needs Shane just like Shane needs Jeffrey. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. And at this point, if you are actively supporting any of the three of them, you yourself are trash. You yourself are complacent with harm and danger. Oh, it's not that deep, Cherita. Yes, it is. It is that deep. Because, and I'm going to use this little gem that I heard the other day on a podcast, Opinionholics. I'll link it below. You cannot tolerate everything. You have to be intolerant to intolerance. Because if you tolerate somebody constantly bashing somebody, you tolerate it, that right there is intolerance. Somebody bullying, somebody beating up somebody actively harming a community. If you tolerate that, then that eventually will make its way into tolerance. No, you need to shut that down. Shut that down at the root of the problem. The way to beat intolerance is to not tolerate intolerance. That's what it comes down to. You cannot allow people who are actively shady and rude and bullies to just rise to the top, because eventually that will take over. It's like a dictatorship. You know what? Let me stop. All I'm saying is, I've been telling y'all, not just me, but a lot of other people, I've been telling y'all the same thing for years. And guess what? We were right. Give us our validation. So that is my video for today. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. That helps me out a lot. Also, do not forget to link up with me on my social media, especially Twitter. All of that information will be down below in the description box. And until my next video, I'll see you guys later. Bye.